In today's day and age, you need to know your numbers. And the way you know your numbers, whether it's food costs, liquor costs, labor costs, it should all be tied into your POS system. Is the number one thing you need in a restaurant to be successful is culture. People see all the shiny stuff. They want the marketing, they want the food costs, they want the profits, but understanding that really the foundation of the business is people.
Do you have one serious lesson or one aha moment?
The big aha moment was
Welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs, growing 1% everyday podcast.
Hello, and welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs podcast, where we discuss how to grow 1% every day in both business and in self. Today, we have the founder of So Napa Grill, Adam Barringer. With 3 locations across the east coast of Florida, Adam has developed a high-end restaurant with elegant Napa Valley style ambiance, incredible food, and consistency across multiple locations, which we all know as restaurant owners is one of the hardest things to do. This year, he'll be celebrating his 19th year in business. Super excited to talk to Adam about his incredible story of how he went from 1 location to 3 locations and his vision to expand even further in the future. Thank you, Adam, for joining us today.
I appreciate you having me on the podcast. Thank you.
No problem. And you're no stranger to these podcasts. You guys have 2 separate podcasts that you're running now, one for wine specifically, one for restaurant owners. So you understand the process behind this. So let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's start off with where you came from. Where did the idea of So Napa really start? Where did this energy and motivation to be how crazy a life it is to be a restaurant owner? How did that come to be? Where does the motivation come from? And kind of lead me up to where we stand today.
Yeah, well, first of all, I went to college at UCF and I put myself through school, waiting tables, bartending, doing whatever I needed to do. And it was all in hospitality industry. And then when I got out of school, I started working, I'll condense it down. I started working for Outback Steakhouse. And I spent the majority of my career working for Outback Steakhouse and then also for Bonefish Grill. And while I was with Bonefish Grill, I started learning about wine. It was really my first introduction to wine. And from there, I did first level sommelier training with Court of Masters, and I went through Windows of the World wine training, and it made me realize, man, I really like wines from California. Specifically, I like wines from Sonoma County and Napa Valley, and hence the name Sonappa. And when I ended up leaving Outback in Bonefish, I started my own small little concept called So Napa. And it was really just a wine club amongst friends, which then grew into a tapas bar or a small restaurant, focusing on wines from Sonoma County, Napa Valley. And then we moved into our current location and full service restaurant, full liquor bar, but still the driving force is wines from Sonoma County, Napa Valley, complemented with a chef-inspired cuisine from really. So that's the story in a nutshell. It's just my passion for wines from those 2, arguably the best growing regions in the world.
I love that. And the fact that you started bare bones in the restaurant and actually started working. There's so many restaurant owners that are just like, hey, I'm a foodie. I love food. That's why I'm going to start a restaurant. But with your backstory, you understand the front of house, the back of house, the operational structure, and then to find a love within that process of the wines,
Sure.
and then really find the niche of those wines themselves and bring it into Sonappa. I mean, beautiful story. I absolutely love it. I gotta ask you though, a lot of restaurant owners, when they start their business, they have a core reason and value of why they think their restaurant will be better than the others, right? They have the best chef or the best food. They love the ambiance. What was the one thing when you developed Sonappa that you wanted to give a little bit of a unique selling proposition, a little bit of a differentiation? What was the uniqueness that you wanted to have with this location?
Yeah, so I took a lot of what I learned from Outback and Bonefish, and they don't really have a chef that drives their business. I mean, the systems are in place. They have a corporate chef, and we had kitchen managers in those locations. So when I first started out, maybe I was a little bit naive, but I knew that by serving wines from Sonoma County and Napa Valley, not many other restaurants were doing that. They're serving wines from around the world. And by focusing on those 2 regions, I felt that was a strong enough kind of a niche that we could fit into. And I couldn't believe that nobody had taken that name, So Napa, which was also kind of cool. So I really felt that was our unique selling position or unique selling proposition. And then once we started expanding to a full service restaurant, we really wanted to focus on food that represented Northern California. So fresh food that pairs great with wines, fresh, simple. And I think that we've been able to do that. We've refined our brand over the course of the last decade, and which, because of that, has allowed us to grow. And it certainly hasn't been without some trials and tribulations along the way.
Let's dive into that next. I mean, the beautiful to hear the niche, right? It's beautiful to hear that the niche allows, and for the restaurant owners out there, if you're thinking, hey, that limits the amount of consumers that are really going to be interested. No, it allows you to develop your messaging and your creative and your ambiance in the right way, right? Once you understand how you want to represent yourself and how the business wants to be represented, it shows in the social media, it shows on the website, it shows when you talk to consumers. And as you can hear here from Adam, if you're, the business owners and entrepreneurs listening to this right now, you can hear how Adam's confidence and what his business is allows him to understand how to make location number 2, location number 3, and hopefully up to location number 100 or wherever you want to develop to have consistency around it, which we know in the restaurant industry is one of the hardest things to have. Different employees, different consumer base, different materials coming in from different areas. Adam here is able to really hone in on where he wants to source his materials, how his food wants to be, and how he wants to develop the ambiance correctly to really represent those things. So, and let's dive into some of those trials and tribulations, because those, that's what makes us as entrepreneurs. It's what makes us as an individuals. Talk to me. What was the most difficult or trying thing that happened throughout the development, maybe in location 1 or location 3, that is a testament to who you are and what the business is, and also maybe some great advice for the restaurant owners listening to this today?
Yeah. So, we have our original location. It's in New Smyrna Beach, Florida, and it's just east of Orlando. We opened a second location in 2012 in Maitland, Florida, which is right outside of Winter Park. And we lasted 2 years. It was a failure. And what we were able to take from that failure has really, instead of just saying "Fuck it," and giving up on it, we were able to learn from our mistakes and going into the next location, which is really, we've got 3 locations now. So let's say location number 2 is in Ormond Beach. So after the failure, it took me, I don't know, I'd say it took me about 5 years to really, figure out, what do we do right? What do we do wrong? How can we improve? So we ended up hiring a design architect team out of Orlando. They captured everything that we wanted to do with trying to pay homage to Sonoma County and Napa Valley, and to rival some of those great restaurants that are located in Sonoma and Napa. And so we opened up in Ormond Beach during COVID. March of 2021 is when we opened, and it's been a huge success. And I think we've, over the course of, like I said, the last 10 years, we've really been able to dial in on our food and make it so it is a representation of what you would get if you went out to Sonoma or Napa and ate at some of the great restaurants out there. We've captured the essence of being in a winery tasting room as far as the ambiance, the warmth, and just, we've continued to hone those details. And we opened a year later in March of 2022 in Jacksonville Beach. So we're located in New Smyrna Beach, Ormond Beach, and Jacksonville Beach. And we're so much better because of the failures that we had early on. So learning from our mistakes.
What's one big lesson that you learned from those designers? And I can almost guarantee the restaurant owners listening to this right now, they're resilient to bring in people that aren't in the restaurant category, right? Maybe they're not specifically in a restaurant, but you went above and beyond and found a professional in a different category to help advance your business. Do you have one serious lesson or one thing that was an aha moment from working with those designers?
Yeah. So the big aha moment, Kyle, was we capture the essence of Napa or Sonoma when we in the restaurant that we failed at. So when we had a designer come in, and this firm, it's called Gravity, they're out of Orlando, and they specialize in restaurants. Well, it turns out when I reached out to the guy saying, "Hey, we're looking to do a second location," and he says, "I was just in your restaurant several weeks ago while I was visiting some friends at the beach, and on top of that, I've been out to Napa. I've been out to Sonoma. I understand where you want to go with this brand." And so he was able to capture the elements that you have in a winery tasting room. I say he designed a beautiful restaurant for us. And so when people walk into our restaurant, they're walking they're not walking into just a typical restaurant. They're walking in to the heart of Sonoma or Napa. They're walking into the heart of wine country.
And for the listeners, that is so vitally important. I mean, you can think back of all the experiences you had at restaurants and the amazing food and the great dishes that you had, but the ones that always stick in your mind is the ones that just blow you away when you walk through the front door. That just the ambiance itself speaks for what you think you're going to get with the food and with the customer service. It all comes together. And it's a beautiful story to hear how you guys kind of brought that in full circle. But it comes off the back of the confidence of you knowing what you wanted this business to be. Maybe you didn't know all the little designs, but the structure, the core values, the why, as Mick would say, was well implanted into your brain. So we've talked about how the business came to be. We talked about now how we've had these three beautiful locations crushing it all across the east coast of Florida that have the ambiance, the food, and really the representation that you can be proud of. What's next for SoNapa? Where do you guys go from here?
Well, where we go from here, we're looking at several locations. I think that our goal is regional dominance. I mean, as a term, regional dominance, we're looking at going back to the Orlando market. We've got a letter of intent on a piece of property. We haven't signed it yet. We're also looking at going a little further south. Our goal is to get to 10 locations kind of on the East Coast and moving into Orlando, Florida. So that's our goal.
I'm hoping that you find one in Naples as well. I think this concept in Naples, Florida, would be beautiful. I mean, there's property that still exists out there for a restaurant with how much they're developing. This is something I spent a lot of time in Naples, and your overall ambiance presentation, I think, would just hit home there incredibly well. But beautiful to hear the content. Talk a little bit about the listeners on the difficulties of starting up that new location. Do you feel like you have a blueprint? Do you feel like you walk in, you know exactly how to execute? Is it fluid every time? Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, I would say that at this point, I feel that it is very fluid. But I think something that's more important than having, let's say, the capital to open a second or third restaurant or fourth restaurant. I mean, that's one resource you definitely need. But if you do not have the right people, and if you do not have people that believe and know your culture, then do not open another restaurant. I could tell you that was when we opened our third restaurant in Jacksonville Beach. We brought in some people from the outside, from the management team, and it has proven to be a very difficult task to really have them understand what our true culture is. And I can tell you that anyone listening to this is the number one thing you need in a restaurant to be successful is a is it culture.
Culture. Yeah, I love that. Can you break that down a little bit to how you're developing your culture with your employees that are in the company? I think it'd be immense knowledge for the restaurant owners listening to this right now.
Well, first of all, when we opened our second location, we thought we had everything figured out, and then we failed over in the Maitland store. So our second unit now, we opened up. We had great people, guys that have been working for us for a while, and then we brought in a good friend of mine by the name of Joe Bates, and he was our managing partner, and then he's become our chief operations officer. And when we opened the third location in Jacksonville Beach, we didn't even have a mission statement written out. We didn't have a set of core values. And we started working with a gentleman by the name of Donald Burns, the restaurant coach. And he kind of coached us through a lot of that stuff. And, people see all the shiny stuff. They want the marketing. They want the food costs. They want the profits. But understanding that really the foundation of the business is people, and having a strong mission statement and having a strong set of core values and knowing what some non-negotiables are. The line in the sand with your employees, or the line in the sand with your customers and how they treat your employees. So it was really building on that foundation that is, I believed, allowed us to grow and to put systems in place. So I think opening number 4 will be so much easier than opening number 2 and number 3. And I think that we just get better as we go.
1% improvement every single day. I love that. I love that. 110%, right? Pulls it back into Kaizen. And that leads into my next question. I want to recap real quick for the listeners right now. There's so many golden nuggets that Adam is alluding to here, right? One is making sure that you have the passion, the why, the direction, and what you want this business to be before ever launching it. And then through the development of launching it, making sure that the trials and tribulations make you into a better person, not give up on your overall goal and your perspective. Third, bringing in outside resources to help really find how to put your vision into reality. We're all really good at certain things, but we're not all good at everything. So finding the opportunity to say, hey, we need to take a step back. We need to humble ourselves as the owners and find outside resources that help us find that look we're looking for is huge. And then the last one is the culture. The culture is so big, especially in restaurants. If you have a high turnover rate of employees, it's bad culture. If you're getting negative reviews on your Google My Business or in your social media, it's your culture. There's a lot of things that directly affect the growth or diminishment of your business that are based around the core factor of how the culture or how the system within your business operates. And Adam's hitting the nail on the head with all of these. So let's dive in a little bit about you, Adam. I want to hear, I mean, you're obviously extremely successful, crushing it, right? And the passion, the motivation, the knowledge base that you have behind it is exciting to hear it. You know, I previously was a restaurant owner. I understand the difficulties behind it, but to hear how you kind of went through your timeline and then even after you found that big success of the first location, having a failure and then still ripping through and finding success location 2, 3, and then looking for 4 and 5. How do you find your Kaizen? For the listeners out there, Kaizen is a Japanese business philosophy that means 1% improvement every single day in both business and itself. It's the practice that we go through as human beings within our business and within our lives that get us to improve what we do every single day. So as a successful individual and as a successful restaurant owner, how are you finding your Kaizen?
Yeah, so I think you find it in many different ways. And I would say when we failed at the second location, and let's say we closed down in 2014, I was also mayor of our city in New Smyrna Beach, and I was introduced to the sport of triathlons. And I started doing triathlons in 2015. And so listening to different triathletes, or specifically David Goggins, and listening to his story and some of his motivation, and it just kind of got me out of the mindset of just work. And I was able to participate in triathlons. And once, then I got the bug. It was doing sprint triathlons, Olympic distance triathlons, then half Ironmans and Ironmans. And once you realize you can continue down that road and get better and not give up in those most difficult times when you want to say, fuck this. And so I think that was one way with, just getting a little bit better every day. And then after opening the restaurant in Jacksonville, we were introduced to Donald Burns. And he really, he taught our entire leadership team 1% better every day. So that's a mantra that I have on the wall here at the office. We talk about it every single week. We have a manager meeting with our leadership meeting. We talk about how we can get 1% better every day. We look at different aspects of the business, but it's part of our core value of being 1% better every day.
Embedded into the culture. Simply hope. And if the listeners out there, if your ears are starting to peak up and you're starting to say, okay, I need to start understanding a few things that Adam has brought up here. I got to get my mission statement correct, my core values correct. I got to get my affirmations and my 3-year goal structured correct. I got to figure out how to get my team operating in a way that has a good culture and that will make us better every single day. A quick book recommendation I have is Get Scalable by Ryan Diaz. I actually have the book right here. Adam, I don't know if you've read this one. Really good one across the board. And it hit a lot of the core values that you are bringing in, the developing mission statements, developing the system. And for the listeners out there, we're always trying to get in these podcasts, always trying to give back value. So hopefully this helps you. If you guys are looking for incredible food in Sonoma County and Napa Valley, Adam, can you please outline your 3 locations, your address again, where you're located, and how these people can come and find you and try your amazing food?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're located in New Smyrna Beach. And we're located in New Smyrna Beach, 3406 South Atlantic Avenue. We're located in Ormond Beach, 324 North Nova Road. And we're located in Jacksonville Beach, 2400 3rd Street South.
Beautiful. You guys got to make sure that you check it out. We're going to have all that information in the description below so you guys can go meet Adam and try his incredible food and check out the ambiance. Please, if you go, make sure I know it's on my list next time I'm in Florida to be on that East Coast and check out his locations. Adam, thank you so much for the time today. The story was absolutely incredible. The golden nuggets that you're giving to our listeners are super powerful. Is there anything that you'd want to sign off with? Anything else that you want to mention before we end this today?
Yeah, I think the last thing I'll sign off with is embracing technology. In today's day and age, you need to know your numbers, and the way you know your numbers, whether it's food costs, liquor costs, labor costs, it should all be tied into your POS system. And there's a lot of great ones out there, but then having a food cost system, a system where you track your inventory, knowing your numbers is probably second most important to having a great culture.
I love that. And if you don't know your numbers, you're not a real business owner. We've said this in the podcast before. To understand business is to understand the numbers behind business. And Adam, beautiful golden nugget to end it off. So thank you. If you guys have finished this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Adam, thank you so much for your time today.